Okay, hi guys, welcome back to the Audio Levels channel and welcome back to another review or a lambasting, whatever you want to call it. This is the 7Hz Eternal, the follow-up to the extremely popular 7Hz timeless planar magnetic earphones that sort of set the world on fire last year, along with the Tin Hi-Fi P1, which is still my favourite out of the two of them, but the 7Hz timeless pucker set of earphones. This is the follow-up to them. 10th anniversary apparently of 7Hz. I'd only heard of them when I heard of the Timeless, but yeah, it seems like they came along now and they have a dynamic driver version. Retails for a little bit more expensive than the 7Hz Timeless, and this is where you get into a problem with some of these companies that get a big takeoff earphone, one that punches above its price point, and you get into this thing where they're competing against their own product, and this one's definitely competing against its own product, and it's not doing very well in that competition. So let me explain why. This is the box, cool graphics, cool sort of design on the outside, meant to hint at dynamic driver, which I'm probably going to bash in about 2 seconds. This is the box, really nice colorway on it. You get a couple of packs of tips on the inside of the storage case. I'll just bring them out. So you get plenty of options to get a good fit, and you get the warranty card that nobody will use. That's why, of course, I recommend people buy from Linsol or Amazon or somewhere that you can get them to handle the warranty returns for you, as opposed to trying to deal with one of these companies yourself. You'll never get a hold of them, in my experience. Now, in the box, let's pull the box away. You have a really nice carry case. The earphones come inside this, and yeah, it's all metal, really high quality, nice finish on it, and a little magnetic clasp that shuts and holds it into place. Really like that, and it fits in nicely with the overall aesthetic of the earphones. Now, let's get into the earphones themselves. This is going to be your first look, and this is going to be a fast video, guys, because you want to stop watching now, you can go and watch go and buy the 7Hz Timeless. Let's get into the cable. The cable is decent quality, but I've got some issues with the cabling and the wire itself. It's got metal jack points, metal splitter, and the hardware is good on it. My issue is that the cable itself is a little bit, you can see here, memory retentive. It's not the worst one that I've had, and it's probably in fitting with the price point of the earphones themselves, but it's definitely retains some memory. So when you've got it wrapped up, you pull it out your pocket, you can see the kinks in it here and here, that a lot of people people like me do not like that in a cable. I like a free-flowing, sort of easier cable than that. So if you are going to buy something like this, then I would strongly invest buying a different cable. It is a dual twist instead of a braid into single strand after the splitter. And let's get into the earphones themselves. Now, my first impression of these were, my God, these are stunning. Look, I can see the drivers on the inside. And apparently these have got 14.5mm drivers on the inside. I'm damn sure that these are not the 14.5mm drivers. This is decorative. There is no movement from these. There is nothing. Plus, if you look here, there's not... there wouldn't be any uniformity in the way that the driver can move on the background of this. There would need to be some sort of way that it can move and flex inside. This is decorative. It's a cool look, but I think it's a little bit of a... I don't know. It irks me the wrong way. It would be cool, like even whatever drivers on the inside of this, to just have an open back display on it and let you see the internals. It's something I always like about like my customs and stuff. Anything that I go for clear finish on it, I can see the internal workings of the earphones themselves. This one is, as far as I'm concerned, that's a faceplate. And that brings me into the design point. If you're going to do this faceplate design for a design, the thing that everybody criticised on the Timeless was the shape. The shape's fine ergonomically from this side, and then they've put a giant circular disc on the outside of it, which I think looks bad, but also it stops people with smaller ears being able to use your earphones. If you cut off this and made them just a little bit more ergonomically friendly, then you would have a better overall earphone. And it was the one criticism that everybody had of the 7Hz Timeless. And it seems like they've gone ahead and done it again just for this faceplate design. So I'm definitely not a big fan of that. I just think that was such an oversight, just going for beauty over, you could have done something cool. Regardless of that, the build quality is very, very good. The MMCX has a very nice tolerance on it. It's very easy to insert and take apart and stuff, change the cables. The build quality is all metal. It has the one seam that seals it over. It's a couple of venting ports on it, and I do like that they've put the little turbine design on the actual ear protectors in there, or the grills. I think that's a cool little touch. I like that, and I really like the color as well. I like the overall look and color scheme of it. It's just that practically speaking, this gets in the way of people with smaller ears. Medium-sized ears, not really a problem, but I gave it to a couple of my friends that are female. I was like, can you try this on? And they had to have it sort of sticking out at a weird angle. Now, let's get into the sound. And the biggest reason you don't want to buy this is because these two earphones exist. 7Hz Timeless and the Hifi P1 or P1 Pro, whatever they're calling it now, are vastly superior sounding earphones than the Eternal, and unfortunately that's the case for a lot of earphones that are in that sort of grey zone of sort of $150 to $300, $400, is that they're coming up against these two earphones, and sonically I just think these are excellent sounding earphones, these being the 7Hz Timeless and the Hifi P1. I know how people hate me saying this and this, so I'm going to try and stop that. The tuning and the tonality of the 7Hz Timeless is close to, it's sort of perfect for me as a versatile listener, somebody who listens to a wide variety of music. It has adequate bass, it's got lovely texture and detail in the mid bass, which I say time and time again is so important. Texture in the mid bass, also detail in the mid bass, is where you find, everybody thinks booming bass is what bass is, but if you listen to stringed instruments, for example a double bass in jazz music, you can hear the details inside the bass, which brings the music more to life. When you're talking about earphones that present more sound to you, I always say check the mid bass or the upper frequencies of the bass region, and see if you're getting performance out there, if you're getting the details there, because too many companies lean towards just giving impact, overwhelms the mid bass, and you don't get the detail. And if you get detail from the mid bass, the mids, and the treble all together, that's a very detailed earphone. These two do it very well. This sub-bass response is a little bit higher than the 7Hz Timeless, but then there's a drop-off and muddiness to the mid-bass, and usually where that resolves in is in a lack of speed. It's the single dynamic driver moving too slowly, and you'll get that with a larger dynamic driver. In this case, it's a large dynamic driver. It's not the largest. I think Sony have some 16 millimeters and stuff like that, but it scales up with power. It does sound better with power, but I still think you're lacking that resolve in the mid-bass region. Sub-bass is what I would say is adequate and fine. I just think that there's a dip off going there, both in prominence but also in levels of detail retrieval. It's still very good. I'm talking about this against two of the gold standard earphones in the price points. That's the problem. I'm talking about this. If I was talking about it against the Audio Legacy 3.4 or something like that, it's more comparable. Going into the mid-range itself, I also found that the mids lacked intimacy and weight. It was clear enough, it wasn't overly detailed. But when you went into the upper mid-range, it did some peaks and pops and stuff like that. It seemed to just drive up on the female vocals and the upper octaves in the stringed instruments, like listening to Vanessa Mae on the violin. There was some points where the music just sounded a little bit too sharp and hot for me, which distorted it from the lower part of the mid-range. But I think overall it was acceptable, but the ability for me to really engage with the music, I prefer a slightly more lush, slight overtones of warmth, more blended, more intimate sounding mid-range, and I just didn't get it there. And I think that was compounded by when you got to the treble, and the treble just dropped off a cliff from going from such an ability to promote the upper mid-range. The treble was very pulled back. I'm not even going to say like it was just lacking sparkle and that sort of brightness that brings it together, which brings me the question of like where does it fit in? The treble on the 7Hz is amazing. The treble on the P1 is amazing. The bass on both of these is adequate. So I was thinking if you put a little bit more sub bass in, you push the treble, make it a little bit V-shaped, sort of like the old Ultimate EARs. I can't remember what the Ultimate EARs, Triple Fi or something like that. I was like, you can maybe get something similar out of this. And in that regard, I guess it's just not engaging in the treble. The treble just, it lacks detail, it lacks sparkle, it lacks realism for me, and that filtered into the soundstage as well, because if you know that soundstage can artificially be presented in treble, an airy, light, bright treble can create the illusion of notes floating in the air. And you just don't get that with this as well. So it felt kind of closed in more directly, like towards you. It was adequate, I would say, in terms of width, but in terms of depth, I think it felt very closed in to me. Apart from that, is there any case that where I could recommend this? Not really. I think there's a lot of good earphones in this price point. And the two gold standards that it's competing against is, of course, the P1 and the 7Hz. And you're going to need a power source, an adequate power source to power both of these. I think you also need it to power the Eternal. So when you consider this, the Eternal is the most expensive out of all three of them, and you're getting better sound performance, you're getting the same build as this. Excuse me. You're getting the same build, so you're not getting anything more. You're actually getting a worse sounding earphone in the same body, essentially. Yes, this one looks a little bit better, but it's essentially the same body. And when it comes to the P1 versus the Eternal, the P1 have the better body shape. Again, the Eternal look better, but the P1 ergonomically are perfect for people with small ears, medium ears, large ears. It's a very, very comfortable earphone. It's equally well built. It's just a little uninspiring with its looks, but I think overall, out of the three of these, I would definitely go with the P1 first, very close second for the 7Hz, and I would consider other things before I considered the Eternal. So, sorry for that one if you were interested in this, guys, but I always talk about this. 7Hz still have an absolute killer earphone, and what I would recommend for them to do would be to keep the exact same specifications and everything on the 7Hz, and just tidy up the body, make the body a little bit cooler looking, a little bit more ergonomically friendly, get rid of this big circular disc on it, but just keep the sound exactly the same, give a better cable, change the housing slightly just to make it more ergonomically friendly, and just make a V2 7Hz timeless instead of you're going to have to do something different with the tuning, especially at this price point, or maybe look at investigating something in higher price points or lower price points to be competitive. But you've got a $250 earphone on lock right now, so there's no point in putting something else in its place. Okay, so that's it. This one went on a little bit too long again, so thanks for watching again, guys. Go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video, which is probably going to be another the Kinera Urd, the T-Troms by Tipsy, or the TRN TRN backs or something like that, but I don't even know if I want to engage in that because I know it's coming out the KZ factory, and KZ have been proven to be scumbags recently. So yeah, we'll see about that one. So probably Tipsy Trums or Kinera Urd coming out. So thanks for watching again. See you in the next one.